Coming up, let's hear Michael Terpin talk about the skills you need to raise money, the latest trends in crowdfunding, the future of news distribution, his BitAngels, and the startup debut at International CES. You're watching YBLTV. So Michael, Internet Wire, your first company, I understand you raised $18.5 million plus, I believe. And it's now MarketWire, the third largest news distribution company in the world. You really know how to raise money. What is the skill set that's needed? What do you think? What can you offer individuals out there that are looking to raise money? What do they need to have?
Well, they have to have a great idea. They have to then put together a great management team, and then they have to be able to go and market that to accredited investors at this point, although crowdfunding rules are going to make other options in the future. But really have a concise story, have for certain types of investors, a gigantic market opportunity, and at least to raise from venture capital funds, which we did. And it's a different type of dynamic if you're looking to raise, a smaller amount of money from angels in a certain environment. And the big thing is you should be raising from people who understand what you're doing. You don't go to a real estate investor with a technology company or vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about trends. You said that trends in PR are every 10 years, social media 10 months, crowdfunding every 10 weeks. What's going on with Indiegogo or Kickstarter? I understand that Kickstarter's been sued recently and they're becoming more selective. What else have you seen?
Well, those aren't necessarily related. They've had a number of lawsuits over the years. I mean, a lot of pioneers do. I mean, they, for the most part, have prevailed. But they have become more selective because a number of the controversy they've had have been companies that, say, raise a bunch of money and then are slow in building the product. And people are asking for their money back. And so Kickstarter now they've always actually had to bless the company and say, we want this company to be on there, we want another company not to be on there. And it's, again, pre-sales. There's no equity going on here. You're essentially pre-selling a product before it gets built. I like to say it's wine futures, it's not stock options. And Indiegogo, their competitor, is a little bit different. I like to say anything go-goes with Indiegogo. They don't go and approve things as long as it's something legal. They let you put it on there and see if people will buy your product.
A presentation deck. What are the three most important things to have if you only have like 20 minutes?
Okay, so now we're going back to raising equity from angel investors. It's important that you can very quickly and powerfully get across your story. It's storytelling. And, I usually, if I'm putting together a deck for a new company, I'm going to spend, a couple months really getting the company down first, and then, several weeks sort of getting the deck down. You want to be able to show what industry you're in, what's the size of that market. I mean, you may be solving a great problem, but if the biggest the company can ever be is $5 million in sales, there's a lot of people who aren't going to be interested in that. So Ann Windblad, who was the lead investor of my last company, MarketWire, is fond of saying, I like markets the size of Texas. So, people look, investors, the venture capital investors in particular, are looking for markets that, you can create a company that's worth $1 billion.
Let's talk about traditional investing and crowdfunding in terms of crowdfunding relying mostly upon maybe impulse buying. How is the marketing different, perhaps? What's the time spent, the efforts, the cost in each of those scenarios? How are they different?
Well, they're completely different, raising equity and selling something. Crowdfunding is essentially trying to sell next year's product to people who believe in you this year, but there's no equity involved, so you're essentially selling a product. And what Kickstarter did that was interesting and has been then also used by Indiegogo and a number of other companies that are in the space is to be able to offer rewards. For example, if you don't want to buy the product but you think the company is a good company and you're interested in it, you can get you can buy a T-shirt, you can buy for a film, for example, a lot of times the obvious thing is buy the DVD, pre-buy a signed copy of a book. But also, if it's a celebrity that you're interested in and they're going to be attached to this movie, they might have a high-end reward where you can have dinner with the celebrity or attend the wrap party after the premiere. And so those are all things that work well in terms of crowdfunding for creative projects.
Let's talk about BitAngels.
Wow, talking about a lot of things here. So BitAngels is the first global angel network for angel investments, early stage investments in digital currency. I started that with David Johnston, who's a serial entrepreneur from Austin, Texas. I met him in May at the first Bitcoin Foundation conference, which was the first Bitcoin conference that was bigger than 100 people. It was about 1,000 people. And since then, the price of Bitcoins went from 120 down to about 65. And just in the last couple days, it's zoomed back up to 200. Which is the second highest it's ever been. So it's a very interesting area that I personally think is going to be fundamentally game-changing to the economy of the world. And so that's why I'm looking at companies and investments in that area and doing things to help build the infrastructure.
Game changers. Let's talk about CES coming around the corner. What are you looking forward to?
Well, we have an event called Startup Debut. That we have companies that are looking to launch products at CES, and we get about 500 media there. So that's always a big enterprise for us. It's held on the Sunday that CES's doors open. The show floor opens on Tuesday, but the media come on Sunday. So that's really our big initiative is that, and we put together the CES party list at cespartylist.com.
Last question: where do you see news distribution going on the internet? Do you see any changes, trends?
Well, sure. News distribution started out, PR Newswire invented the market, and they used telegraph, and they sold to Western Union. That's how much things have changed. And then Business Wire started in the early 1960s, and their technology innovation was using satellite. They basically resold over the satellite services of the Associated Press. And really not much changed until I started Internet Wire, where we use the internet. Now everybody uses the internet. Some of the changes are social media has caused a lot of changes. All of the news wires, and again, I've been out of the news wire business since 2006 when we sold MarketWire. But certainly I'm still staying very close to the trends there. I think that the traditional newswire business growth path, which it was skyrocketed in growth in the 1990s and 2000s, has slowed down. And I think it's slowed down for the reason that social media and blogs means that there's just different ways of breaking news. And for the most part, because bloggers, particularly the top tier bloggers, like to break stories before the traditional media, if you put it out on a newswire, it's kind of too late. So we like to use at Social Radius, we like to use newswire distribution more as a threat. So you'll tell a reporter or a blogger, yeah, we're going to announce something in a week or in 2 weeks. Do you want to get a look under embargo? Because if you don't give them a deadline, they'll say, oh, you got a cool company, great, call me back next month or the month after. But if you say, we're announcing something to the world on a newswire a week from Tuesday, are you in or out? They have to make a decision, yes or no. It's a tool that, used to be to get to the gatekeepers. And now it's more about sort of SEO and backfilling your distribution as opposed to a place you actually break news.
Michael Terpin, founder and CEO of Social Radius, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.